Hey ghouls and gals, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and today's video is going to be a little bit different than the videos I normally do on my channel. We are just going to have a little chat, a little informal chat about my nonfiction TBR. I don't normally do TBRs in general. I am very much a mood reader and I don't do nonfiction TBRs either. In the past few years, it's always been my goal to read a nonfiction book a month. And for 2024, I figured, okay, I've got that in the bag. I'm not going to make it an official goal. And of course, when I don't make it an official goal, it doesn't get done. So originally, this video was supposed to come out at the beginning of November, but November has just been such a horrible month for me. It's been horrible all the way around, not even talking about just like the political climate in the US right now, but just in terms of personal things. Unfortunately, November has been probably one of the worst months of my life. So just it didn't get done. I took a little break from filming, took a little break from reading, and I'm slowly easing back into the bookish content, but I wasn't quite ready to just continue on with my same old content that I normally produce. So I figured it is the end of November, but it's better late than never, right? So this is my nonfiction November TBR. It's also a TBR of books that I am going to be heavily prioritizing for myself to read over the next couple of months. So just to kind of kick this video off, I am about 60% of the way through this nonfiction book right now. This is my current nonfiction read. This is The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory by Tim Alberta. This is American Evangelicals in an Age of Extremism. And what this book does is explore how evangelicalism became less of a purely religious movement and how it's really intertwined with republicanism in the United States. Tim Alberta is an evangelical himself. His father was a pastor, and I do think that lends a lot of credibility to this. Not even necessarily credibility, but the fact that he can go into these spaces and have these conversations with these people that potentially other journalists could not. So because he has that religious upbringing, because his father was a pastor, and this is in a lot of ways his world, even though the paths that a lot of these pastors that are interviewed in here and the different churches that are interviewed in here are not what the author believes. I think because of his background, he handles this with a lot of care, and in a lot of times even, I think he's a little too benevolent and a little too willing to give some of these people the benefit of the doubt when it comes to their intentions and the things that they are doing. But nevertheless, this is an absolutely fascinating read. The blurb for this one of the blurbs that really stuck to me at the beginning is how this documents a growing fracture inside American Christianity and journeys with readers through this strange new environment in which loving your enemies is woke and owning the libs is the answer to what would Jesus do. So this is an absolutely fascinating read. I was reading this at the end of October and it has taken me a while. There are some truly horrific things in this book. Just seeing what different pastors are preaching, and they're not preaching from the Bible, and how they're really preaching, it's almost like political rallies instead of attending like a traditional church. So this is very fascinating, and I'm definitely looking forward to finishing this in the next few days or so, which kind of brings me to my next little segment. I don't do wrap-ups on this channel just because I generally tend to pre-film. So the vlogs that you are seeing in any given month, I've usually read them the month before. So if, for example, in October, all of the books or all of the vlogs that you saw in October, most of it was filmed in September. So if I were to post a September wrap-up, like that seems like a chore to me, and this booktube project is a fun thing for me. So that's why I don't really do wrap-ups, because I feel like I talk about them enough in vlogs and it feels like homework to do them. However, I'm thinking I might do like recent reads or roundups of nonfiction books that I read, just because I'm not going to be reading them as fast, and I just don't think nonfiction, at least for the kinds of vlog content that I do, like they're that interesting for a vlog. So I'm thinking of maybe like every couple months, maybe like 3 or 4 times a year, doing a recent reads wrap up of all of the nonfiction. So let me know if that would be something that you'd be interested in. The rest of the books are books that are on my TBR. They're books that I've checked out from the library, whether that be physical copies, as these next 2 books I'm going to show you are, or digital copies via Libby. So these are books that I am looking forward to reading, continuing my education, using and reading materials from my library as a form of resistance, and of course reading, because reading always has been and always will be political. So first, on the physical TBR, we have How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram x Kendi, and this is a book that has been on my TBR for such a long time. I've actually heard snippets of this book. I've watched speeches of this author and listened to podcast interviews, so I have essentially kind of read or at least listened to a lot of what is covered in this book. I've also read the book from this author stamped from the beginning, so this is not my first introduction to this author's work, but this is the first time I've managed to snag a physical copy and read, so I am very much looking forward to this one. It's long overdue, but what I've read from the author I've really enjoyed, and I'm hoping to also get this one on audiobook to do a tandem read, because I think it's narrated by the author, and the author does a really great job in terms of narration and presentation. And this one, the blurb is, "The only way to undo racism is to consistently identify, describe it, and then dismantle it." So very much looking forward to reading this one. And then the other book that I have on my physical TBR is American Psychosis. This one is written by David Korn, and it's a historical investigation of how the Republican Party went crazy. It's a very bold title, it's a very bold subtitle, but I am very interested in reading this one. The cover honestly caught my eye, and I figured, why not give it a go? So the blurb for American Psychosis says, "This tells the wild and harrowing story of the Republican Party's decades-long relationship with far-right extremism, bigotry, and paranoia. It's a behind-the-scenes account of how the GOP, since the 1950s, has encouraged and exploited extremism, bigotry, and paranoia to gain power." So this is another one that seems really fascinating. I'm not going to mention this for every single book because it would get redundant, but I am also hoping to read this physically while listening to the audiobook. That helps me to keep engaged in nonfiction and really absorb everything that is being read to me. So looking forward to this one. And then some other books that I have on my TBR. These are books that I either have on the holds list from my Libby library, or I have just recently been able to check out from the Libby library. The first one is Men Who Hate Women by Laura Bates. This is From Incels to Pickup Artists: The Truth About Extreme Misogyny and How It Affects Us All. This is an ongoing problem, an ongoing societal problem, and it's gonna get worse if we continue to not address it. So I really am interested in picking up that one. Another one that seems super prevalent and relevant for today is Surviving Autocracy by Masha Gessen. This book provides an essential guide to understanding and recovering from the corrosion of American democracy over the past few years. This one is a shorter one. It's only 6 hours. I know sometimes nonfiction is very dense, but 6 hours, not too bad for an audiobook, and I have an unfortunate feeling that that one is going to become more and more relevant as the years go on. Also looking forward to reading Strongmen by Ruth Ben-Ghiat, and this is following Mussolini to the present. Fun fact about this one, I had this placed on hold at my library. I wasn't supposed to get it for months and months and months. My library acquired 90 additional copies because for whatever reason, this book's really high in demand right now. So in this book, the author exposes the Strongman playbook, and she lays bare the blueprint these leaders have followed over the past 100 years, leaders like Mussolini and Putin, and it also empowers us to recognize, resist, and prevent disastrous rule from men like them in the future. I'm also going to be picking up Women, Race, and Class by Angela Davis. This is an author that I have heard her work before. I've read snippets of it, I've listened to speeches of the author. I have just never read a bind up book of her work. So Women, Race, and Class is what I'm going to be reading. This is from one of our most important scholars and civil rights activist icon. It's a powerful study of the women's liberation movement and the tangled knot of oppression facing Black women. Again, Angela Davis, she's just one of those heavy hitters when it comes to feminism and intersectional feminism. So I'm really looking forward to giving this one a shot and reading more from her. I also plan on reading Rage Becomes Her by Soraya Chemaly, and this is The Power of Women's Anger. This is an utterly eye-opening book that gives voice to the causes, expressions, and possibilities of female rage. In Rage Becomes Her, Soraya Chemaly argues that our anger is not only justified justified, but also an active part of the solution. So definitely looking forward to checking out this one. I've been feeling a lot of anger this month, a lot of anger, and I'm really interested into seeing and reading more about how I can channel that in a positive way. And then last but not least for my TBR, we have The Age of Insurrection by David Neiwert, The Radical Right's Assault on American Democracy. And this one offers a clear explanation of how dark forces conspired to overthrow our democratically elected government and install a fascist regime in its place, and it's a warning that what comes next might be even worse. So I'm not excited. I'm not excited to read this one. I think this one's going to have a lot of hard conversations. I mean, all of these books are, but this one seems very timely as well. So these are obviously not the only books that I am going to be reading over the next few months, over the next few years, but I think that I really just need to start prioritizing reading nonfiction again. I consider myself a very well-informed person, but I do want to make sure that I am especially getting more informed and using my library to borrow books with information and borrow physically whenever I can to absorb information and learn more about the world around me, and in particular the United States, and just the environment, the social, the political, the economic, all of that, the just whole entire petri dish of what is happening at this point in history, what brought us here, what are we going to do in the moments moving forward. So yeah, by no means not a comprehensive list of all the nonfiction books that I want to get to, but these are some of the ones that I'm anticipating reading first just because of library loans and all of that. But thank you all so much for watching this one. If you have any book recommendations for me, definitely leave them down below. I want to check them out. So definitely give me your suggestions, give me your recommendations, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, subscribe to my channel for all of the bookish, cozy gaming, and horror content. Stay safe, stay spooky, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.